All right, we're going to cover some more of yesterday. Those ICE agents shooting and unaliving Alex Pretti. Unbelievable, man. So many people are pissed off right now. I got a bonus clip when I get done with this, too.
Where that city is seeing its second deadly shooting involving federal personnel in less than 3 weeks. The Minnesota National Guard is now activated as investigators work to learn more about the shooting. News Nation's Mills Hayes is live in Minneapolis at a memorial site for the victim, Alex Pretti. Mills, good morning. I see a makeshift memorial behind you. Tell me what you're learning this morning.
Good morning, Hannah. It's -9 degrees outside and freezing, and Minneapolis city workers as well as police are out here cleaning up the barricades put in place by demonstrators. The Minnesota National Guard out here as well, and we are standing in front of that memorial for Alex Pretti, who was killed right here just yesterday, and you can see candles and flowers and photos of Pretti all surrounding where he was shot and killed earlier today. Now, I want to show you guys some video from the incident that took place, some of the video that shows the moments leading up to that shooting where Pretti is seen with a cell phone in his hand and he's pushed back by a federal officer, and witnesses say about 15 ICE observers were on the scene recording agents at the time, as DHS says that they were conducting a targeted enforcement of an undocumented man wanted for domestic assault, and DHS says that the agent fired in self-defense after a man with a gun approached them and violently resisted when officers tried to disarm him. But no bystander video we've seen shows Pretti with a visible weapon. He's tackled to the ground by at least 4 officers, and it appears that a federal officer in a gray jacket reaches into the scuffle empty-handed and emerges with a gun before at least 9 shots are fired by another officer. Pretti's family says that he was an ICU nurse at the VA hospital and had been protesting the immigration crackdown in the city. And in a statement, they said that the sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting, adding that Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked.
He was a good person.
We had this discussion with him 2 weeks ago or so, that go ahead and protest, but do not engage, do not do anything stupid, basically. And he said he knows that, he knew that.
He was a terrorist.
DHS is investigating this incident, but state investigators here in Minnesota are trying to conduct their own investigation. In fact, Hennepin County Attorney's Office as well as state investigators filed a lawsuit last night so that the evidence in this case could be preserved, and a judge did rule in their favor late last night. Hannah?
And Mills, you were on the ground just moments after that shooting. What did you see? What are people in the community telling you?
Right. It was chaotic after that shooting took place. There were more than 100 demonstrators that came out, and there was clashes between federal officers and those protesters that were out here, people angry and upset. And we spoke with one man who heard about the shooting and came out. Take a listen.
And it scares me because I never knew this incident would happen so close to home. I just live 2 blocks away, and I've got a coworker that actually lives right at the apartment, and he woke up to gunshots.
Hundreds of protesters marched through the streets to the area where the shooting took place, holding signs and chanting, banging on the barricades that they had put in place. They also were surrounded by local police as well as the Minnesota National Guard that were further back. And right after the shooting, we saw that clash, as I mentioned, tear gas, pepper spray, flashbangs all deployed, local police responding in riot gear. And Minneapolis police do say that some protesters threw ice chunks and glass bottles at state and local officers, and DHS says that one person was arrested for biting off part of a federal officer's finger. Now, this entire area where we're at right now, very popular for restaurants. It's called Eat Street. A lot of these businesses were closed down yesterday because of the demonstrations that were happening, and a lot of them were actually out here handing out food and water and hand warmers to a lot of these protesters as well. So essentially a block shut down here. Hannah?
All right, Mills Hayes, you've been on the ground for weeks now. Thank you for your reporting. We'll check in with you all morning long.
This is just fresh.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Care 11 on the Record. I'm political reporter Danny Spiewak. This week, for the first time since the killing of Renee Good, we sat down one-on-one with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who talked about the ongoing ICE operations that are occurring in his city as the federal government's clash with local officials intensifies. Mayor, thank you for taking a few minutes to sit down with us. We appreciate it. I just want to get right to it. Your city is really locked in an unprecedented battle with the federal government right now. People out there are wondering, what is the path out of this?
The obvious path out of this is the same way that the federal government got in this to begin with. You can have these agents leave. We've got somewhere in the range of 600 police officers in our city, and as of now, they have 3,000 to 4,000 ICE agents and border control. If the goal were safety, we would have many mechanisms to achieve safety working in partnership with the federal government. And by the way, we've done that before. But the goal is not safety. This seems like some form of political retribution or performance, and it is causing chaos on our streets. It is making people less safe. And so the easy antidote here to achieve calm, to achieve a steady approach and to get safety is to have this massive influx of agents in this operation end.
So the Trump administration has given no indication that they'll be pulling agents out anytime soon. What has your communication been like with them, given that they're not giving up on this, it seems?
Right. Well, we have tried to access every channel that we possibly can to both provide a message universally and specifically to the White House and the Trump administration to say, this is not working. If the goal is safety, this does not achieve it here. We, of course, have reached out directly to the White House, but did not hear anything back. And so we are still optimistic, both because we've got a court process that is presently underway. We believe that we can win this litigation. We are hopeful that in the relatively near future, we'll have a judicial ruling that says, at least to a certain extent, this operation has got to end.
You're obviously under federal investigation by President Trump's Department of Justice. Are you planning to comply with the subpoena that they issued?
Well, look, I'll leave the litigation strategy up to the attorneys themselves, who are going to be the experts in this, but it should be deeply concerning to everyone in Minneapolis and around the country that elected leaders are being targeted because they disagree with President Trump. That's not how things work in America. Other countries, sure, you have this kind of political retribution where if you're an opponent of the person who's in charge at the federal level, you get nailed. That's not how it should work here. And supposedly the target would be, because I'm engaging in one of the most basic and fundamental responsibilities that I have as mayor, which is to speak on behalf of my constituents.
We saw the vice president, of course, in town in this city this week, and he accused you and other Democratic leaders in Minnesota of not cooperating with federal law enforcement. What is your response to the vice president?
Well, we have cooperated extensively with federal law enforcement when it is about achieving safety. We've worked with the DEA and the ATF, the FBI. We've worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and together, for one example, we successfully drove down crime and shootings on the north side. Due to that work, shootings on the north side are the lowest level on record. So when it's actually about achieving safety, when it's about specifically targeting murderers and rapists and all the people that the federal government likes to talk about, we do work with them. But here's what we won't do. We won't spend a limited amount of time that our officers have hunting down a father who just dropped his kids off at daycare, who's about to go work a 12-hour shift, who happens to be from Ecuador. That guy makes our city a better place. And I don't want our police officers spending time going after him when they could be investigating crime and preventing murders and carjackings from happening. That's what I want the work of our law enforcement to be focused on.
Is it still the policy of your city that police officers in Minneapolis could respond to a federal scene for crowd management, not for the purpose of immigration enforcement, but can they still respond to scenes?
They can respond to scenes. Specifically, our officers go out to keep the peace and to help keep people safe. That is their primary goal. But it's important to note that they can't be everywhere all at once. They've got their regular day-to-day responsibilities that they're supposed to be undertaking. They got to respond to They got to respond to 911 calls. They got to conduct investigations. They got to prevent regular crime from taking place. And simultaneously, when you got these 600 officers and you got 3,000 ICE, obviously there's an imbalance here, and our officers can't do all of it at the same time.
Switch to TurboTax. When we reach out to the DOJ and their media line, for responses and comment, they'll often point to your statements from the day of the killing of Renee Good, and they say that they're not allowing the state to be involved in the process of investigating it because they believe that you made a prejudgment. What do you say to them?
Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. First of all, I'm not the state. And so the state and the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is an independent body. I don't direct them. I don't have authority over them. What I'm saying is that this investigation should be conducted by a fair and neutral, independent body. Not just the FBI, which, the DOJ, which has clearly already come to a number of conclusions through this federal administration. And I'm not saying I should be investigating it. The BCA, however, has a long history of looking into officer or law enforcement involved instances. They have investigated cases that have both resulted in a charge and a lack thereof. These are police officers and attorneys. These are real experts. And yes, they should be the ones that conduct an investigation.
During the campaign, you had really dismissed the idea of having to potentially arrest a federal agent. Have you reconsidered that? Would you pursue something like that if you felt that a law was violated?
Look, we got to understand what we're talking about in practice here. First, law enforcement officers would have to be on scene whenever it was taking place. And as I've mentioned, they are working all around the city. Second, look, our officers do and have intervened to keep people safe, and we will continue to do so. We will intervene to keep people safe. And at the same time, we've got to just look at the reality of the circumstances that these officers are facing, and I do not want to put people in more danger than they presently are in.
I know the city council passed the resolution asking the governor for an eviction moratorium. Do you support that call to the governor?
I think there are much better mechanisms than a universal eviction moratorium. I think we should be working with nonprofits and foundations. We should be working directly with landlords to make sure that people are able to get through this very difficult time. There are more scalpel-like instruments that could better enable people to stay in their homes. Having a full-on eviction moratorium does not make as much sense to me.
Are you planning to veto that resolution?
No, it's a resolution. It's a statement. That is the statement that the council wanted to make, and look, I respect it.
When it comes to your tenure, of course, you were in your first term during the murder of George Floyd. How does this crisis compare to what you went through in 2020?
It's completely different. And at the same time, when you go through an emergency or a crisis, you gain experience. You get thicker skin. You understand how to manage as an executive, especially now an executive that actually has the authority to direct. Back then in 2020, we had a dramatically different form of government. We had a system that was set up which essentially had department heads report up to 14 different people, 13 council members and a mayor. Since then, the structure of government has changed. Some call it a strong mayor system. I would call it a regular mayor system. But it is a system that enables us to direct. And to be very clear, we've worked a lot over these last several years to improve emergency management, to run a national incident management structure, to have streamlined communications. We ran practices, we did trainings, and all this work culminated actually in a simulation where we had 70 some odd people from the city go out to Emmitsburg, Maryland, which is the FEMA headquarters for simulations. And we ran a simulation which was nearly identical to what happened the other day when Jake Lang came in. And so, look, any city, any entity can get overwhelmed, but we are incredibly prepared for emergencies as they come up. And I'm so proud of our team here. I mean, we've got communications people and leaders. We've got emergency management and police officers all working with a common goal in mind. And that goal is to keep people safe through this incredibly difficult circumstance.
I want to ask you again about cooperation between local, state, federal government on immigration matters. One of the things you often hear from the Trump administration is that local officials here are not facilitating, people that are in jails and prisons. And I know the DOC has sent a statement responding to that. But when it comes to the Hennepin County Jail, you don't have jurisdiction over it. But would you support the Hennepin County Jail and the Sheriff's Office having more cooperation with ICE?
I think that decisions about the jail should be left up to the sheriff who runs the jail. But I'll tell you what we will do, what we do in Minneapolis. If the federal government has the goal of catching a murderer, then the first question should be, are they a murderer? Not where are they from? If the federal government has the goal of catching a rapist or a drug or human trafficker, the first question should be, are they a rapist? Are they trafficking drugs? If so, you go after them. I don't care where they're from. They could be from Chicago, Minneapolis, they could be from Ecuador or Germany. It doesn't matter. The question that we ask is, are they causing chaos or crime on our streets? To the extent they are, what does it matter where they're from? And we will partner with the federal government on that front. But again, that is different than having this focus be on plucking random people, tearing families apart, discriminating only on the basis of are you Latino or are you Somali, and indiscriminate after that. We will not partner on constitutional violations. We won't partner on, this dragging a pregnant woman through the street or picking up a 5-year-old and detaining him. That's not what our city is about. If this were about violent criminals, there would be really obvious ways where we could work together. What we're seeing, ain't that.
The vice president, in response to us asking about allegations of racial profiling, said that he would investigate that. They take that to Washington, but he denied that it was a widespread practice. Do you believe him?
No. Look at what's happening.
I know the next one will play. Well, maybe not the next one.
Rain-X water repellency wiper blade.
I mean, you've got police officers at this point that are being pulled over, that are off duty because they look like they are Latino. They look like they are Somali. This is not like one individual reported instance. You guys on your program have pointed out numerous instances when people have been targeted that are United States citizens. Our public works staff have been targeted. You got 4 of them out there. They're all filling potholes or whatever. The 3 that look like maybe they're a person of color, they get stopped. They get asked for their IDs or their passports. The white guy, they don't ask anything. So are they discriminating based on race? Why? What other explanation would you have?
How has this impacted the operations of the city just as a whole?
Our city is resilient. We are strong. We've got approximately 4,000 amazing city employees that are holding tough through the most difficult of circumstances, and they're doing their jobs with pride. We're the government here that doesn't shut down. We keep responding. We keep acting. We provide city services with excellence. And by the way, there's a ton of stuff that we got to do, whether it's filling potholes or plowing the streets, responding to 911 calls, things that are completely separate from whatever's going on with this mass deployment. And so, yeah, they're doing that, working at the same time. Of course, there's a strain. We're meeting very regularly to prepare for what's to come. And, our hope, obviously, is that this ends very soon. And we're doing a number of different channels. We're running a number of different mechanisms to hopefully end it. And that's litigation. That's reaching out. That's trying to find areas where there is in fact agreement, and we've cited this repeatedly. I mean, if you listen to what J.D. Vance was saying, some of it sounded like he was spouting off my talking points. Some of it sounded like he wanted to focus on violent criminals, which of course we would, but that's not what they're doing.
What have your conversations been like with Governor Walz? You've held separate availabilities, haven't appeared together throughout this.
Yeah, no, we've had extensive communication back and forth with Governor Walz and his team. They've been very helpful. They have provided additional assistance from the State Patrol. We've worked together in terms of the communication. No, the government governments themselves between the city and the state are working hand in hand.
My last question is, what are you going to do as the mayor of this city if the federal government remains here with this ICE presence for months on end?
Well, look, I'm not going to predict the future as to how we will handle individual situations that haven't had yet, but our city stands rock solid. We stand rock solid in support of the people who we love, and I'll tell you, I'm inspired. I am inspired by the tens of thousands of people that have peacefully protested, inspired by people that are, escorting their neighbors to get groceries that are otherwise terrified to go outside. I'm inspired by people that are, taking a watch outside of a daycare and just looking out for each other. And that in and of itself is so beautifully Minneapolis. This notion of I care about my neighbors who I love, and I'm going to stand up for them, that's something special.
Welcome back. The top elected Republican in Minnesota state government is House Speaker Lisa Damuth.
Okay, that's it.
Here very late into the night. There's still been an active law enforcement presence, and also there is a growing memorial here at the scene where this shooting happened. And yes, once again, there are contradictions between what federal officials and eyewitnesses to this shooting are saying. We want to be clear, we're not fully certain yet what happened in the minutes leading up to the shooting, but the shooting itself is on video. It is graphic, but you can see for yourself what happened.
Overnight unrest and anger in Minneapolis after federal agents shot and killed another person. Graphic video from the scene obtained by Dropsite News shows a man in a struggle with agents resisting being shoved to the ground and hit. It appears his gun is removed by one of the agents. According to a witness affidavit, at least 4 agents pointed guns at him. The same witness saying the man shot had at least 3 bullet wounds in his back.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. How many more residents?
Minneapolis police have now identified that man as 37-year-old Alex Pretti, an American citizen and Minneapolis native who worked as an ICU nurse for the Department of Veterans Affairs. Pretti seen here reading the final salute for a fallen veteran.
Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it.
Local authorities say Pretti was a lawful gun owner with a license to carry and no criminal record. Minnesota has an open carry gun law which requires a permit. Video shows Pretti intervened trying to help a woman the agents had surrounded. He appears to be holding a phone as he is pepper sprayed and wrestled to the ground, which he resists. The video does not appear to show him drawing the gun at any point. Now, Governor Tim Walz says the state will not be stonewalled by the Trump administration as they investigate the shooting.
Thank God we have video, because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took an onslaught of a battalion against them or something. It's nonsense, people. It is nonsense, and it's lies.
According to an affidavit, a doctor witnessed the shooting from a nearby apartment and says that at first agents would not let him through to help before one agent eventually agreed to let him assess the victim. According to the affidavit, the doctor says he was confused as to why Pretti was lying on his side, which is not standard practice when a victim has been shot. The doctor added ICE agents appear to be counting Pretti's bullet wounds. Border Patrol officials say the shooting happened while conducting a targeted operation for a person in the country illegally. They claim Pretti approached Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun seen here, along with 2 magazines, and say he violently resisted their attempts to disarm him.
We will not allow violence against our law enforcement officers.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem insists the agent fired defensive shots.
This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
So far, they've provided no evidence supporting those claims.
There's been demonstrators out here since this shooting first happened, sometimes thousands at a time. The fires are to stay warm in the sub-zero temperatures. But we know there's been protests happening every day in Minneapolis since Renee Good was shot 2.5 weeks ago.
The Minneapolis community coming together in a candlelight vigil overnight. Neighbors, friends, and family gathered outside Pretti's home. His neighbor, speaking to ABC News, remembering the 37-year-old.
He was very well thought of. It's difficult to square that impression that everybody on this block had, and with this notion that he was somehow on some sort of suicide mission to inflict damage on ICE.
And his father telling the Associated Press his beloved son cared about people deeply and was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis, adding he had discussed the protest with his son recently.
We had this discussion with him 2 weeks ago or so, that go ahead and protest, but do not engage. And he said he knows that. He knew that.
The lady.
And as Governor Walz is vowing to press forward with this investigation, we know a judge has given a temporary order barring the Trump administration from destroying any evidence linked to this shooting here. Janae?
All right, Trevor, thank you so much for your...
To follow breaking news out of Minneapolis, where a 37-year-old U.S. citizen was shot and killed by federal agents. We're following the very latest on this developing situation right here on KARE 11 and streaming on KARE 11 Plus. So thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Morgan Wolf.
And I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Protesters have been at the scene since the shooting was first reported this morning.
And this happened exactly right here around 9 a.m. near the intersection of Nicollet Avenue and 26th Street in Minneapolis. This is the Whittier neighborhood along 8th Street that many of you might recognize.
We do have multiple crews covering the developing situation right now. We are going to start with Lou Raguse, who's in the newsroom now, with more on what led up to the deadly shooting. Lou?
Rena and Morgan, Alex Pretti was a 37-year-old Minneapolis man who was in the vicinity of 26th Street and Nicollet Avenue where ICE agents were present. One bystander video seems to show Pretti filming in the middle of the street, then trying to pick up a woman who got pushed down. From there, Pretti gets sprayed by an agent, and another video then shows a group of agents restraining Pretti, then an agent firing a number of shots. Later, Homeland Security officials released a photo of a handgun along with 2 magazines they say Pretti had on him. Now, here's where the story from federal officials differs from the many video angles that we have seen. In their words, Pretti approached with a gun and they attempted to disarm him, leading to the shooting. Well, Minneapolis Chief Brian O'Hara told us that Pretti had a license to carry a gun. We've seen no video that shows him pull out his gun or reach for his gun, and some video even suggests that one agent removed a gun prior to the shooting. The Department of Homeland Security, HSI, is leading the investigation and has shut out state use of force investigators. What's remarkable about that is that according to the BCA, they had a search warrant signed by a judge to get into the public area where the shooting happened, but federal agents still turned them away. Our Kent Erdahl will have more on that in just a little bit. For now, back to you.
All right, thanks, Lou. Well, at this hour, protesters continue to gather where Pretti was shot and killed. Ian Russell joining us live in South Minneapolis. Ian, what is the crowd like right now?
Well, it looks like it's almost kind of split between two groups. One which is a little bit further down Nicollet this way, and then the one that's directly behind us. That intersection right there is 27th and Nicollet, and down this way is 27th and 1st. That's where we spent the majority of the morning. All those ICE agents and Homeland Security were still out here before they left. I want to tell you about what that looked like as they left. It looked like tear gas being thrown from the back of cars. Obviously, a lot of emotions, a lot of people yelling at them. But we did stop and talk before that happened with a man. I believe his name was Christopher, and if I get your name wrong, I apologize, sir. It's been a long day out here. But talking to him, he says he's an ex-Army Ranger. He talked about his experience overseas and why he wanted to come out here today. He said he wanted to come out here to speak to people, to see things for himself, call for accountability, and things like that. He talked about, his experience working overseas and what would have happened if his guys were involved in something like this. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We've been peaceful, and now this morning it was just unbelievable. I can't believe that video. If my guys did that and we were in the military and we were trying to, let's say, subdue a civilian in Afghanistan, and all of a sudden my guys just shot and then started shooting, there would be a court martial and there'd be accountability immediately.
Now,
I'm going to pause that. I'll get back to this later. I didn't realize this is long. I bet I could play it to do.
I've seen the video now. Federal agents were beating a man in South Minneapolis. Then one or more of those ICE agents shot multiple times into the man, killing him. Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota posting that he spoke with the White House after, quote, another horrific shooting by federal agents this morning. Minnesota has had it. This is sickening, end quote. I actually was interviewing Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison when this shooting happened. You are going to watch that interview as I bring him in, and you're going to watch it now. But I want you to listen really carefully to what he had to say about what is happening in his state and how the people feel and why it's so important this Operation Metro Surge needs to stop. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, the cities are under siege. It is an invasion by federal agents. And you are going to see at the end of the interview that he suddenly drops off the interview, and that is because he was called to duty. Take a listen. Joining me now is the Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, one of the fiercest defenders of the rule of law and democracy. And I got to tell you, Attorney General, if there was ever a test in the history of Minnesota, it's happening right now. Your state has now become ground zero for some of the grossest and most egregious atrocities of the Trump administration. I got to ask straight out of the gate, though, how are you doing as the Attorney General right now?
Very well. We are organized. We are fighting back. We're in court very soon with this administration. We're doing our job, and we're undaunted, unafraid, and ready to keep going. And I'm telling you, we can go longer than them.
I believe it. Y'all are a hearty stock, but let's start with the state of play of the legal cases. One of the most powerful cases that has been filed was filed on January 12th by the state of Minnesota. We also saw a similar lawsuit filed by the state of Illinois. And the allegations were not only grounded in facts and truth and evidence, but really made it clear that ICE and other federal agencies needed to get the heck out of Minnesota. What is the latest in that particular case, Attorney General?
Right. So January, I guess Monday.
The 26th.
26th would be when we're in court at 9 a.m. And, you know, our allegations are, to be technical, we're not saying ICE needs to have no presence in Minnesota. What we're saying is Operation Metro Surge is a unconstitutional, illegal, and highly damaging enterprise. It has resulted in the loss of life. It has caused injury to many citizens of the United States. It has terrorized everyone. It has hurt businesses. It has reduced commercial traffic, and it has driven up the cost of our state and our city. So it's altogether a failure. There's no plus side of it. They've said that they've picked up some of the worst of the worst if you ask them. But the truth is several of those people were already in Minnesota prisons and had been conveyed to, and some had even been transferred to ICE already. So they're claiming credit for dealing with the worst of the worst who'd already been dealt with, already been charged, convicted, and arrested, and serving time. So this is ridiculous. There's a rural county called Cottonwood County, and the ICE tried to say, oh, they're not cooperating with us. And Cottonwood said, look, they were in our jail, and you were notified that they were here, and you never came to get them. We cannot hold people longer than their state charges require. So you got to giddy up. It would be unconstitutional to say, we have no legal basis to hold you, but ICE might want you, so we're just going to deprive you of your freedom. We can't do that. But I've had authorities in the Trump administration say things like, why don't you stop these people from protesting so much? I'm like, that's a First Amendment violation you're asking me to commit. This is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And I know if you take each one of these, maybe none of them are unprecedented. But if you add them all up, I've never seen nor read about this much torment to a state of the United States who was not in open rebellion against the United States in favor of like slavery or something, right?
Yeah.
All we've ever done is mind our own business and paid our taxes. We pay more taxes to the federal government than we get back.
Les Schwab changed the tire game.
More taxes to the federal government than we get back.
What you guys are doing, though, in Minnesota, from the top down, from your governor to you to the people of Minnesota, is you don't bend the knee.
No.
And as we know, Attorney General Ellison, when you don't bend the knee, that ends up being a problem with this particular president and administration.
Right.
I want to say, AG, that the people that are watching this right now, I'm very proud to say they are incredibly well versed in the law because they've been following the law. I like to say we go back to law school with this convicted felon Trump that we have here.
Good
and
thing.
We've talked a lot about the 10th Amendment, which was kind of remarkable. The 10th Amendment is a really big deal. And I want people to have a little bit more of a nuanced understanding from you. This idea that states you have to respect the state's sovereignty to be able to control its police and its local law enforcement and its ability to govern its people.
Right. Well, so here's the thing. The United States is predated by the states. So the states existed as political entities before there was a United States and only came into the United States based on an agreement that we would retain authority over things that were our business. In fact, it is the federal government that is a government of limited jurisdiction. It's the federal government that can only do things that they are specifically assigned in the Constitution, and literally everything else is to the states, which is why voting is a state matter. All criminal justice, like 90% of it is state, small amount of it is federal. But by the way, states can prosecute any crime. Feds can only prosecute certain crimes under certain conditions. Every divorce, medical licensing, nurse licensing, cosmetology licensing, you name it, the state does it. But the feds don't do everything. They coin money, they do treaty stuff, and there's certain interstate criminal acts that they deal with. All is important, but this balance between state and federal authority is part of what makes American democracy. Because you and I, we grew up taking our civics class and we learned executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch, balance each other out, check and balance. But that's only a few of those check and balances. The main check and balances is something called federalism between the state and the federal government. And the federal government cannot commandeer or overreach the states. The federal government has to stay within its limits relative to the Constitution. This is why the only time that they can try to use troops, federal active duty troops, to do police work is under the Insurrection Act, which presupposes an insurrection. And we don't have one around here. The only damage being inflicted on our state is the deliberate, active harm perpetrated by the federal government. Full stop. Our state and our local police and sheriffs and everybody else are working hard to protect Minnesotans. We don't need you here. You've worn out your welcome. And that's it.
So we're going to get into the interfacing of local law enforcement with the feds in a second. I just wanted to ask you, what is going to take place on Monday, the 26th? What exactly is being sought so the people who are tuning in understand what's at stake on Monday?
Yeah, so what we're essentially doing is we sued on the basis of the 10th Amendment, First Amendment, also the Administrative Procedures Act, the Homeland Security is a federal agency, and therefore they have to operate pursuant to the Administrative Procedures Act, which prohibits them from being arbitrary and capricious in the conduct of their affairs. And we're saying Operation Metro Surge is arbitrary and capricious, is irrational. Here's a fact for you. Minnesota is home and welcomes many people from around the world, but we're nowhere close to the top in terms of immigration. We're about in the middle. I mean, places like Florida and Texas and Utah have far more immigration than we do, and yet they are having the largest anti-immigrant surge in the history of the United States right here, right now in Minnesota. They swamp our police departments, Minneapolis and St. Paul, in terms of their numbers. And they plan to do this. They've been planning to do this. Interestingly enough, on when we have our case heard, we'll explain to the court massive racial profiling, massive stops based on no probable cause at all, massive just arbitrary attempts to discover whether somebody has their papers. Show me your papers kind of conversation. Massive abuses of protesters, massive abuses all the way around. It is a reign of terror perpetuated by masked men with guns who are arrogant and hateful and demonstrate their contempt for the people here on the daily.
Here's to the go-getters.
Your case is being heard by a federal judge by the name of Catherine Menendez. There's another lawsuit. There's actually several, but another noteworthy one is one that was brought by some individual protesters.
Right.
And they were obviously, and they were rep by the ACLU, and they are suing Kristi Noem, Bovino, and others. And Judge Menendez entered on January 16th an 83-page order that was very clear about prohibited activities. And to your well-taken point a few minutes ago, Attorney General, it's not all functions of ICE are illegal and unconstitutional and invalid. Just the ones that are unconstitutional, illegal, and invalid that need to stop. And Judge Menendez was like, look, you cannot do stuff like retaliate against people that are doing peaceful and unobstructive protests. You cannot arrest and detain people. You can't use pepper spray and non-lethal munitions and crowd dispersal tools. And you can't stop or detain drivers and passengers in vehicles when they are not forcibly obstructing or interfering with federal agents. I don't have to bring up, and yet, of course, we will, Renee Nicole Good. We always have to say her name. You know, AG, and then, of course, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals in a one-sentence order says, we're going to put a stop and a pause on Judge Menendez's order while the case is winding its way through an appeal, et cetera, with the Trump administration. I want to ask you, Attorney General Ellison, you and I are friends, and I know you speak very bluntly, and I appreciate the transparency. There are several people that are saying, Katie, who gives a shit about these court orders, because clearly these federal agents don't care about them. What's the point? What do you say to them about how they should manage these expectations? Because I'm still a believer that these court orders have to happen, but I also share the concern because people like Bovino look like they don't care about these court orders.
Right. So I guess to those same people, and I deal with those types all the time, they sort of masquerade as sophisticated, but the truth is they're just hopeless and they're cynical. And they're not willing to fight. I'm going to be hard on them because those people are spirit killers. And I'm sorry. I'm just going to speak from the heart. If you're telling me that we can't do anything because somebody might not let us, I'm telling you, please just leave. We don't need you. You're not helping. Go do something else. But I don't need you to tell me all is lost. Do you think I'm naive? What do you think you're doing by telling me nothing's really going to work, Keith? I'm like, shove it, man. You know what I mean? Really, just take your fake-ass sophistication elsewhere. Because I'm busy trying to save the state. And if you're not going to help me, get out of the way. Now, look, some of them are just scared. Some of them, and so fine. I deep sympathy for them. But please, if you can't help, don't hurt. How many I've been in a few community meetings, more than a few, a hell of a lot, where somebody always stands up and says, none of this stuff is going to work. And I'm like, okay, why are you here? Because all of us are trying to make something work. And you haven't said, here's my great idea to save our democracy. You just want to piss on everybody else's idea. So I'll just say, if you got a great idea, I want to hear it. It doesn't even have to be a high percentage success. Just a good idea, you know? I'm for it. I'm all for it. But if all you're going to do is come tell me this may not work. I'm like, we knew that, genius.
It can be exhausting. No, and I appreciate the sentiment, because I do think some people are scared, and I think they're frustrated because we do keep on saying rule of law, and we keep on saying that there is an option and a remedy in a court. But I'm also a believer too that karma's a bitch, and there is going to be a day of reckoning for people that want to ignore court orders. And we're seeing teeth from these judges that are really standing up and fighting. You know, that does lead me, Attorney General, to my next question, which is this. I was stunned when I heard a Brooklyn Park, which is in Minnesota, a Brooklyn Park off-duty police officer was so alarmed by what this officer witnessed happening in an interaction between civilians and federal agents that she took out her phone to record it, and then she had the phone knocked out of her hands, and guns were drawn and pulled on her, and she actually had to identify herself to try to de-escalate what is happening. What is your message to people that are saying, we want to do this. We believe in the civil disobedience of protesting. We believe in the civil disobedience and the First Amendment right of free speech to let our disapproval be known. We want to record it. We want to blow our whistles. But if cops are also getting this happening to them, what do you say to them? Like, what are they supposed to do?
What I tell them is be as safe as you can, but there is no easy, safe way back to democracy. There is no easy path. I wish I could come on your show and say, do this and everything will be perfectly fine. Yeah. But we have people who are abusive and horrible. But 50,000 people risked frostbite yesterday.
Since 1998, Dubin Law has called Seattle.
People risked frostbite yesterday.
Yeah.
50,000 people risked their health because it's dangerous out there in that cold. And people are every day showing up to try to help their neighbors. So I love you for trying to help. Please do. But I don't have any total safe harbor for you if you're opposing fascism. Never in the history of fascism have people who tried to oppose it enjoyed complete comfort. The fascist is a killer and a liar. And you should know that. And look, so I ask you to stand up. I ask you to run risks. I'm willing to run them myself. I marched yesterday.
Good.
So I'm not asking people to march in the cold and I'm staying in the warm. I'm not asking people to keep their head down and I'm keeping my head down. No, I'm trying to lead from the front and partially through example, give people the courage to stand up and run the risks that need to be run. But, well, here's what a right is, Katie, and you know this. I'm not telling you this. I'm telling anybody who's listening. A right does not mean everybody's gonna follow what your rights are. It means that if they violate your rights, you have recourse, and you can take them to court. And over time, if people who abuse your rights know that they're gonna have to face you later in a court, then maybe they won't violate your rights in the first place. But having a right is not a guarantee that people won't abuse or trample your rights. And so that's not comforting. So I say stay as safe as you can. But you must tape these interactions. You must record them. And if you can't record them, write down every single thing. You can. I mean, I urge you to do that. We need more information, not less. And if they scare you into even recording them, then they're going to do atrocities and we won't even have any evidence of it. But it's because somebody, I'm sorry, Katie, go for it.
No, it's okay. It's the perfect time for me to actually play this. This is a really quick clip I want to play for you. It's all over. It's viral because it's kind of scary the way that they're positioning it. Let me play it for you quickly, and then I have a quick question for you on the other side.
It's not illegal to record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist. So
we're videotaping you? Are you crazy?
Attorney General, what we just saw clearly was an intimidation tactic by those federal agents, but it's got to be scary for people who are trying to do the right thing, like you said, recording what they're witnessing to make sure that we bear witness to these atrocities, and yet they're saying they're taking our information to put us in a domestic terrorist database?
Well, first of all, let me tell you this. We can take legal action against that. That seems to me outrageous that they would do that, and there are legal recourse to it. Let me also say it is important to take the video and to record everything you can. You should know, and a lot of people are confused about this, prosecutors, and I am one of those, do not investigate crimes, okay? So we need you as a citizen to grab that stuff, and we will get it to the police department or the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and then we will use it to make charging decisions. So it is important to capture it. If you don't capture it, there's no hope we can do anything about it. But if you do, there is. So we need you to keep on taking that video and just come to the true clarity that this is an abusive attack on Minnesota. And I also just want to say one other thing. There's a whole lot of people. We are in a political moment. We have elections coming up in November. Please do keep account of the people who stood with the Trump onslaught against Minnesota. Please remember them in November. Please remember that there were people who actually aided and abetted Trump attacking our state, taking our money from us, sending armed mass men to attack us, draining our resources. That happened. And I hope people remember it, because this is not just a matter of protesting, though it is. It's not just a matter of litigating, though it is. It's not just a matter of the free, independent press telling the truth, which you are, Katie. Thank you for that. It's also a matter of these elections. We have to use all the tools we can to get to the better, more productive place of true democracy. It's going to be a long path. And I also want to say to people, be wary of the circular firing squad. This is a moment when people are beyond frustrated. And I've heard some people say, well, why isn't this stupid guy doing enough?
Angry and pissed at
So you may be wondering what just happened to Attorney General Ellison. He was wrapping up his thoughts. I was just about to say thank you, and there was an incredibly urgent emergency concerning his work. It'll probably make the news, and you'll know about it shortly, but I just wanted to explain to you why he suddenly dropped. But I do want to say on behalf of all of you and me to Attorney General Keith Ellison and the state of Minnesota, thank you. Thank you for your advocacy, being such a fierce defender of democracy, and for your words of action to inspire us to make sure that we are standing tall with our fellow Americans that are under siege in Minnesota. Be mad, be outraged, demand accountability. It's always good to see you. Katie Fang.
I think the thing that makes you really
here to talk about some perspectives on that. Yeah, right. There's kind of a potential disconnect with the narrative from the head of the Border Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security. Tim Blott's now in the newsroom with more on this one. Tim?
Yes, this is an instance where, in fact, before we knew Alex's name here this afternoon and the background of the DHS statement here, they called him an individual, I'm going to quote here, who wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Yeah. That's their words, their statement. I think by now, a lot of you have seen the videos. And so too is Rob Dorr, who's the president of the Minnesota Gun Owners Law Center. According to Chief O'Hara this afternoon, Mr. Pretti was a gun owner with a permit to carry. And as Rob Dorr looked at the videos, he noticed that there was no visible firearm on Mr. Pretti. And Rob also observed that Mr. Pretti was perhaps disarmed before he was shot. Now, Rob watched that video with us this afternoon during our live coverage here, and here's what he had to say.
You see his arms are kind of pinned right in front of him as he's on the ground.
and then then you see the agent in the gray coat there, who doesn't have a firearm in his hand, reach around and pull out a firearm. So right here, you see it looks like the man's, I think Mr. Pretty's arms are pinned down in front of him. So he's not reaching for his hot firearm. Both hands are right there. It's difficult to see what happens right in this second here, but we do see that the agent comes back with the firearm in his hand. That firearm matches the firearm that was photographed by DHS, saying that it was Mr. Pretty's firearm, and then that's when you hear the shots fired.
And again, that's the perspective of Rob Dorr, who's the president of the Minnesota Gun Owners Law Center. And I can assure you, Rob is a frequent testifier at the state capitol on Second Amendment rights. And as a part of that same interview this afternoon, Rob noted to us that if Mr. Pretty had a permit to carry, it's not unlawful to be carrying while exercising your First Amendment rights. And Rob told us you don't have to pick between which rights you exercise. Karen, Simone?
All right, thanks, Tim. Yeah, that's the thing is so many people are of course going to go off of what they see in the video, and you have these split moments, right? And things happen so fast, so people are trying to analyze what we have seen in these a couple of videos, but of course this investigation does have to play out.
Right, and obviously there's so many opinions here. I mean, you go online and it's all over the place as to exactly what unfolded. But yeah, we need to collect all those videos and all the evidence that we can before you draw some conclusions. You have to kind of be a little bit open-minded. But right now there's very different stories coming from DHS and of course from local leaders as well.
Yeah, it's important to mention that Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, he did say that Pretty resisted. He mentioned that the patrol agents then fired those defensive shots. So then that goes to the narrative on both sides here, as we have constantly seen this sort of split happening, as this is the third incident involving federal agents.
Here it is. The Tim Moss full interview, unedited.
Thank you all for being here. I'll have a short statement, then I'll turn it over to Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson to update the situation, joined here by Hennepin County Sheriff Witt, State Patrol Colonel, and General Menke, the Adjutant General of the Minnesota National Guard. Well, as I said last week, this federal occupation of Minnesota long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. It's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of our state. And today that campaign claimed another life. I've seen the videos from several angles, and it's sickening. But I have a strong statement here for our federal government. Minnesota's justice system will have the last word on this. It must have the last word. As I told the White House in no uncertain terms this morning, the federal government cannot be trusted to lead this investigation. The state will handle it, period. Let me say something else, and this is critically important. All of us understand what happened this morning and the tragedy of it, and my deepest sympathies to the family of a 37-year-old Minnesota resident, a lawful firearm concealed permit carrier, something that I've been lectured to by Republicans for decades. It is not only your right, it's your duty. We know that the potential to further inflame tensions is high. And to Minnesotans, there's a difference. We want calm and peace and normalcy back to our lives. They want chaos. We cannot and we will not give them what they want by meeting violence with violence. Minnesota and our local law enforcement, as you have seen, have done everything possible to de-escalate. Local media has reported extensively on the cooperation to de-escalate this situation. Donald Trump, I call on you once again, remove this force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. But in contrast to that, on these frozen streets, what you witnessed yesterday was the best of Minnesotans, peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights. And I attended in the church basement hundreds of Minnesotans from all faith packing care packages for families that have been ripped apart. Despite the horrific acts by this federal government, Minnesotans are standing up for the rule of law. They're protesting loudly and urgently, but peacefully. It must stay that way, Minnesota. Minnesotans are witnessing, and we're creating a log of evidence for the future prosecution of ICE agents and officials responsible for this. They're helping their neighbors. They're walking their kids to school. They're feeding families. I salute their courage and their restraint, and I call on all Americans to see the decency that this state is exhibiting and the horrific cruelty, unprofessional, absolute abomination that is passing for what these ICE agents are doing on our streets. They think they can provoke us into abandoning our values. Well, they're dead wrong. We'll keep the peace, we'll secure the justice with our neighbors, and we'll see this occupation ends. Minnesotans and Minnesota law enforcement that continuously is being denigrated by this administration will continue to be the adults in the room, the professionals in the room, the decent human beings in the room that will keep the peace. With this, I'd like to turn it over to Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson to update you on the situation as we know it.
Thank you, Governor. I'm Bob Jacobson, Commissioner of Public Safety for the Department of Public Safety, and again, it's my honor to serve in that position. A man was shot and killed this morning in Minneapolis. I want to pause and remember what cannot get lost in this moment. A man died. His family and friends are feeling unimaginable heartbreak and trauma. And I know Minnesotans and I know our community will rally around this man's family and friends to support him. I also understand clearly that people are upset. They're scared, they're confused, and I want to assure you that this state's public safety officials and our local law enforcement partners are doing everything in our power to get answers, to help return a sense of normalcy back to our communities. You have the right to demonstrate peacefully. We recognize that demonstrations are often driven by strong emotions, beliefs, and a desire to be heard. But please, please remain peaceful. And I want to say it again because it is important and it is critical. Peacefully demonstrate. By doing so, you help local authorities to get answers. You help us to do our investigations. By remaining peaceful, you help ensure nobody else may be killed or injured. The thousands and thousands of people who gathered yesterday in Minneapolis proved that Minnesotans can make their voices heard peacefully, and they can do so without violence, and they can do so without destruction. And state resources are available and ready to support our local law enforcement partners as requested. And those resources include the Minnesota State Patrol, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and the Minnesota National Guard. With that, we'll stand for questions. Governor.
When life feels hard.
With that, we'll stand for questions.
Governor, you've made this request before. Is there any reason to believe that it will be answered differently? Have you had any conversations with the president, with the federal government, and is there any indication that they are going to pull out or back down?
Well, I spoke twice this morning, shortly after I received the call of this shooting. I spoke with the president's chief of staff, and first request was to get her people out of there, to get these federal agents out of there. They were going to cause more chaos. And second call is, with no uncertain terms, that we will investigate this. We will not be stonewalled. What we've already seen, and you saw it this morning, before any investigation is done, you have the most powerful people in the federal government spinning stories and putting up pictures and unrelated people who we don't know anything about and a picture of a firearm to try and spin a narrative. And I ask Americans, this will end when enough Americans say this will end. Do I have any confidence Donald Trump will do the right thing? No, I don't have a lot of confidence Donald Trump will do the right thing. I do have a lot of confidence that the majority of the American people will do the right thing. And I think there cannot be very many people across this country looking right now, after all the reporting that's been done, after everything that's been said under the pretense that they are here about immigration reform, and quit referring to these people as law enforcement. They are not law enforcement. We have law enforcement who do an incredible job. And to listen to Greg Bovino denigrate the work of our people who are out there cleaning up their mess, no, I don't have a lot of confidence that he himself will do it. But here's what I do have confidence in. There's a whole lot of Republicans, for whatever reason, cannot find their spine. But they might find the ability to know that they're not going to win another election as long as they live, unless they stand up for what's right and stand up for the rule of law and stand up for human decency. And that's the moment.
So then, just a follow-up, because then if that is not the case, what are the people of Minnesota supposed to do who are in the middle right now? Because if they stonewall and you're trying to investigate, is that forcing?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And look, I speaking to the people of Minnesota right now, I hear that scream from you, and I'll continue to plead and ask you for peace. And I know the answer is, you ask us for peace and we give it, and we get shot in the face on the streets coming out of a donut shop. We cannot give them what they want. I don't know how to say this in so many terms, to watch the madness that we've witnessed over this last week coming out of the White House and what it's doing here. My confidence is, and I say it to Minnesotans, as I've said, exercise your First Amendment rights, speak out, bear witness and document legally. But I understand the risk in that. And I understand the courage that it takes to have people out there doing this. Thank God we have video. Because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took an onslaught of a battalion against them or something. It's nonsense, people. It is nonsense and it's lies. So my confidence is this, Minnesotans. You know who you are, and you demonstrate it every single day, and we damn sure know who these people are. The American public knows, and this needs to be the event that says enough. Go ahead. No, I'm up front.
Governor Carolyn Hayes of ACCO, either you or Commissioner Davidson speak to the fact that you talk about you don't trust the federal government to handle this investigation. We know with the Renee Good shooting, BCA said that they were blocked from accessing evidence. Has there been any suggestion that BCA is not allowed to do this investigation? Do you have officers on the ground doing the investigation right now?
The question was related to whether or not the BCA is on the ground currently with the investigation, and a reference to previous investigations that the BCA have attempted to be a part of. What I'll tell you right now is that we no longer have BCA agents or public safety, state patrol, or Minneapolis on the ground at that crime scene.
Is that an instruction by the federal government, or did you pull your agents out?
What I will tell you, and not to get further into the investigation, but DHS pulled out of the scene, leaving that to Minnesota State Patrol, Minneapolis. We did not have enough resources to be able to hold that ground safely, and we had to leave that scene because of the number of people that were available and the safety of those in the public and the safety of our teams. We were able to get there, but at that time we were not able to hold that scene to do a crime scene investigation. I can't talk any more about those details.
Who is handling the investigation? If not either DHS nor state officials right now?
We'll have more on that, but the BCA is engaged and involved, and we are working at the request of the Minneapolis Police Department on the scene and in this investigation. So we are there, we're available. We want to make sure that we continue to work on this and engage with our federal law enforcement, but at this point, we don't have anything more to share about the crime scene. Again, we were not able to hold it. We wanted to make sure and keep people safe, but federal law enforcement left the scene and left us there.
Governor, Ernest, within your time, have you activated the National Guard? I know that the Sheriff has requested for additional assistance. Can you tell us whether they're going to be playing a role?
Yes, the answer is yes, we have, as we said last week, and we staged those troops. I'll have General Menke talk about where they're at, and again, use this as an opportunity to stress to Minnesotans the frustration you have. And as you saw this, they killed a man, created chaos, pushed down protesters, threw gas indiscriminately, and then left the scene, and then we're left to clean up. I understand the anger. I understand trying to parse who were the law enforcement on the scene when you got there after a man was killed is difficult for the folks who are out there. But I can't stress enough, our goal, and I'll have General Menke talk about what the role of these Guard troops are in conjunction with incredible work from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, from mutual aid across, and of course the State Patrol, of trying to get to the point where what we're saying is we can handle this, and Minnesotans can express their First Amendment rights and have our folks on the streets and get these people out of here. And so, John, if you want to talk a little bit, but the answer is yes, there's activated. He can talk to you about numbers.
To be clear, that they're activated different than having them staged.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's the National Guard doing right now? So we have been on state active duty for over a week. So we've had soldiers prepared in the metro area to respond in a much rapid manner than if they were not mobilized. So we have a request from the Hennepin County Sheriff to support them, and that is to help them free up additional resources for other work that they need to do. And we have started coordinating with them this morning on that, and that first area of support will be assisting them with their requirement to provide security to the Whipple building. So we'll be helping them there, and then we are in parallel planning with other organizations within the state of Minnesota, to include the State Patrol, the Minnesota DNR, and other local agencies to render assistance if requested.
Could you say how many are now deployed?
I would say that the number that we have is adequate for the request that we have right now, and I will also tell you that we are bringing more resources that will be able to respond in a timely manner that are not fully mobilized yet, but we are mobilizing more soldiers as we talk at this time. I'd like not to get into specific numbers for an operational security standpoint, but right now we have all the resources to meet the requests that we have.
I would note on this one, too, that we'll be billing the federal government for the cost of the National Guard because they are incurring the costs that are falling on us by their reckless actions. Yes, sir.
You alluded to this earlier, but are you rejecting the narrative that has been presented by federal officials that this man, this 37-year-old citizen of Minneapolis, posed a threat to these agents? And are you rejecting the idea that he played some role with his weapon in leading to?
I'm rejecting the rush to judgment within 15 minutes of this, which they did last time. That's why you need to have a fair investigation. And that's why a video can show one thing, but what happened beforehand. But they already will slander this individual. They've already made this the case. And I will just say, you will all start to see it, and some of you probably have. There's multiple angles of this. And I'll go back to what we talked about before. They're telling you not to trust your eyes and ears, not to trust the facts that you're seeing in front of them. And at some point in time, your reporting, and I think the reporting this week has been spectacular across Minnesota, that there's not two sides to every story. But in this situation, what I'm saying is we need to have a fair investigation, understanding what's happening, and held accountable. We continue to hear, and we heard it from the vice president, that these folks can do whatever they want. They can have full immunity. And what I'm telling you is they will not. There will be justice to Minnesotans. Continue to gather the information. So I won't say where it is because I think it's irresponsible to make that judgment. But what I see with my eyes and what you're going to see with your eyes makes that pretty hard to believe. And I would imagine as a federal officer, they would have come out and sounded like these professionals sound and say, we need to gather the information, we need to gather all the facts, we need to put them forward, and then we can make some informed decision based on the fact. They've written the narrative already. And the audacity to critique the police chief of Minneapolis after what work that those heroic officers are trying to do, and to be critiqued by this guy, I mean, I don't know, I've said it a lot, but America, as you're listening, enough is enough. Enough is enough of this. End this. End this. And we see them moving to Maine. If you're in Boston, you're in Chicago, you're in Philly, you're in Miami, it doesn't matter. We can't live like this. Our children are in trauma. A 5-year-old, you saw the picture, the bunny hat and the Spider-Man. Is there not like some narrative to throw around, to parade around in some coat you had made and act like you're a tough guy or whatever? These are people's lives, and we have rule of law. So I'll let the investigation play itself out. We will do our best to find it, but I don't know, you kill a man and then you just leave, your law enforcement, you just leave him. Is there a single case in America's history where you just like walk away and say, I guess that just happened and we're not going to clean up our mess? I'm proud of Minnesotans. I'm proud of law enforcement here and our partners, and we'll get to the bottom of it. I think we have time for another one. So yes, ma'am. I'm better off to let these guys, the professionals. I have my thoughts.
So the question was, what are we doing to assist federal law enforcement on getting violent criminals off the street, if I understand the question? State and local law enforcement are always ready and willing and able to arrest violent offenders. We do not stand down from that, no matter where we get that information from. If there are violent offenders or violent criminals or violent crimes, we will investigate and we'll bring those to justice. If the federal government would like to work with us to continue.
Kelly O'Connell have been out there for several hours now following what's happening and the growing protest there at 26th and Nicollet. Do we have Mary?
Hey, Karen. I have a little bit of a different perspective than Kelly. I have seen some law enforcement, but they are doing crowd control and traffic control. It's you see a couple of MPD cars in the distance, and as we were driving into the neighborhood, that's really the only law enforcement presence that we saw on scene here. Just Minneapolis police squad vehicles blocking off streets so that presumably cars couldn't drive into the area. We have seen a steady stream of people coming here to protest, many of them bundled up, of course, and wearing respirators and goggles, so ready to participate in this protest. When we were parking, someone actually backed into our vehicle and didn't even realize it because they were so eager to get down here and participate in this protest. But like you have been mentioning, we've not seen any evidence collection happening here. This kind of struck me because, of course, being a reporter and covering police scenes over the years, you don't typically see ripped police tape like this until way after an investigation is done. This says state patrol line on it, do not cross. That was ripped. I've seen a couple other areas where the police tape has been ripped, so not any evidence collection happening here. Again, being on scenes with the Minnesota BCA, they typically hold scenes for many hours, so no state investigators here looking at the crime scene, no federal investigators that we've seen either. The only police presence are those Minneapolis police squad cars that are doing traffic control in the surrounding areas, but this crowd is definitely growing. You see people standing on dumpsters here in front of me, holding signs, holding flags, things like that, chanting. Things have remained very peaceful from what we've seen so far. It's just people shouting, chanting, and it appears that they're holding a bit of a moment of silence for the victim right now. But people bringing in water bottles. I've seen a couple of first aid people as well. So that's what we're seeing here at the scene now. Happy to take any questions that you might have.
How many do you get the sense, Mary, that people are still coming to the scene?
Oh yeah, definitely. We've had to kind of navigate a couple of blocks because it was tough to find parking around here, and we saw people streaming in. We parked kind of over by the Minneapolis Institute of Art, and there were groups of people walking in. So it appears that people have heard about what has happened, and they are coming down to this area to participate.
And Mary, I see, we got the upside down flags that we're showing right now. I saw somebody walking with a bullhorn. What other things are they bringing there? Did you say water bottles?
Yep, we got a lot of water bottles. Like I said, first aid kits. signs. They seem ready for tear gas, even though a lot of that has dissipated. A lot of people wearing goggles, a lot of people wearing respirators that I've seen as well. And of course, it is very cold out, so people appear to be bundled up as well.
Right. And you said that as far as police dealing with protesters or crowd control, there is no sign of law enforcement with regards to that. You said maybe just some traffic enforcement. Is that correct?
Right. No law enforcement on scene. This is an area that has a lot of businesses, and I'm right next to Cheapo Records right now. They were closed yesterday for that day of protest, and then their sign says that they'll reopen today, but they're not open. None of the restaurants around here are open either. The chairs are still on the tables and things like that. We see an apartment building in front of us. I've seen a couple people walking on the roof of the apartment building here, but the crowd continues to grow, and I have not seen any law enforcement attempting to dissipate this group.
Or collect evidence, as Bob Jacobson was just talking about here a few moments ago, too. As we know, and Mary pointed out so correctly, that
I do got a bonus clip. I promise you. A bonus clip for you. Yes, I sure did. Give me 10 seconds here. And this is coming nothing from the man himself, Brian Shapiro.
So ICE thugs committed another murder, this time again in Minneapolis, and guess who's not investigating? The FBI.
Yep.
Guess who is investigating? DHS, which means there are going to be no charges. It's not going to be a real investigation. This was another innocent man who, by the way, legally had a weapon on him, but never touched it. Never reached for his weapon. Never. And what did these ICE thugs decide to do? You see the video. It is clear as day. They grab the gun, at least one of the DHS officers grabs the weapon, and then after he's completely unarmed, and there's 5 agents standing on top of him, they literally execute him.
Yep.
They execute him. A man, to my knowledge and to everybody else's knowledge, that had, again, no criminal record, just like Renee Good. This is murder. We all saw what took place. You can't say self-defense when you have multiple officers on top of this guy. Even worst case scenario, let's just say he was resisting arrest. Do you know how many people resist arrest in this country every day?
A lot.
Police officers aren't shooting and murdering them. Just because you're resisting arrest, and by the way, it shouldn't take 5 or 6 officers, by the way, to put handcuffs on him. Just because you're resisting arrest doesn't mean you deserve to be murdered. But guess what? Just like they did with the Renee Good, the FBI will not be conducting a full investigation. It'll just be DHS. It'll just be DHS. That's like Donald Trump committing a crime, and then Donald Trump saying, I'm going to investigate myself. It's
especially
no
for raping
different.
children.
When is enough enough? Just because somebody might be breaking the law, and by the way, there's no evidence to suggest that this guy even should have been arrested. Why were they trying to arrest him to begin with? Why did they pepper spray him? Why? What was he doing other than recording? You see his cell phone in one hand, and the other hand, his left hand is up. What were they doing? Why did they arrest him to begin with? Why did they grab his gun and then execute him after? Did they feel like their life was in jeopardy? Yeah. Maybe all these officers have, quote, internal bleeding. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. These ICE thugs are killing innocent people. And for you scumbag MAGA supporters out there that are saying, why was he there to begin with? He shouldn't have been there to begin with. He shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done this. Maybe they just should have taken out their weapons. Are you saying they should have executed every single person on January 6th? By the way, we don't even know if this guy was breaking the law. Why were they on top of him? Why were they trying to arrest him? What was he trying to do? Why did they take his weapon away? After they took his weapon away, the big question, why did they execute him? I'll tell you why, because they're murderers and they're thugs. And many of these people are not trained to deal with these types of situations. 47 days of training, dealing with life and death situations. Are you fucking kidding me? This has to stop in this country, and it fucking has to stop now. I'm sick of innocent Americans being gunned down and murdered by these ICE, MAGA, ill-informed and uneducated thugs.
No, it's not 47 days. It's 47 hours now. It's 47 hours. And these fucking piece of shit thugs, jacked up motherfuckers, are so terrified of a fucking camera. And somebody go around extra free speech. You say F you, F that, man. So the right wingers, megas say it's okay for someone to be murdered, unalived, to flip off an ICE agent, or to open concealed carry down the street. Are you kidding me? Whatever happened to the first minute, second minute, fourth minute, fifth minute, all that shit. Oh, that's right, I forgot. According to the mega motherfuckers, we don't have rights. We need to shut the fuck up, stand down, cease desist, go away, and back to blue and stay on size, huh? Yeah. Fuck you all. Alright, man, I'm out. Peace out. Fuck you. Scumbags.